the theatrical release of the highly anticipated documentary Blue Rodeo, Lost Together, will start its run across Canada with screenings on February 1st, 2nd, and 22nd at the Hot Doc Cinema in Toronto, and at Cineplex Cinemas February 2nd and 3rd. Joining us now are two very special guests, director of the doc, Dale Heslip, and musician Jim Cuddy joining us. Guys, welcome to Kelly and Company. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Kelly. Nice to be here.
Yeah, thanks for having us, Kelly.
This is a crazy day for both of you. Dale, Jim, tomorrow's the big day. I want to know how you're both feeling. Dale, we'll start with you as the director of this piece. Tremendous work and congratulations.
Oh, thanks so much. I'm actually a bit nervous. I'm excited, but I'm nervous. We had the pleasure of screening this film for the first time in front of a live audience out in Whistler, and you sort of don't think about it at the time, but you're seeing it for the first time with, I don't know how many people were in the room, but yeah, it makes you feel a little bit nervous. But tomorrow it's the hometown crowd, so there's a little added pressure. So,
and you, Jim?
I don't think I'm nervous. I think that it becomes, the creation of it with Dale and with Ralph and his whole team, that was nerve-wracking. It was nerve-wracking to be so exposed, and it was nerve-wracking to see a rough cut of it and realize all the things we talked about that we've never really shared with the public before. But now it's like performance, and obviously we've done this a lot. So no, I'm not nervous.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fun. It's fun to watch Dale get nervous.
I was just gonna say, you get those sweat drops, hey Dale, and all the interviews, the conversations like this you gotta have, and mostly I'm sure just saying, how the hell do I fit it all into the days before when everyone wants to talk? And Dale, I got to ask, what was the spark behind creating this documentary? How was that journey?
I think I probably wanted to make this documentary 40 years ago after I hung out with the guys for the first time doing their album cover. But I think this is the time for it to come out. This is the 40th anniversary. In fact, upcoming on February 8th is the 40th anniversary from when Blue Rodeo played at the Rivoli for the first time. So it feels like this is the time. Everyone's like, why now? Well, now is the time for this documentary to come out.
How hard was it, Dale, getting the footage that comes from the 80s, 90s? I mean, I always think nowadays everything's recorded. I mean, good heavens, you walk down the street, within a minute, people, 6 or 7 of them, have filmed you just by happenstance as you go by. How did that work out for the collection and finding and you deciding, I want that? I'd love to have that, but can't.
Fortunately, MuchMusic launched in '84, so there was a lot of Blue Rodeo footage in the Bell Media archives. University of Toronto actually hosts the Blue Rodeo archive, so we did many visits there to see what we wanted to use. And in fact, on the very first visit, I pulled out a tape and I plugged it in, and it was Denise Donlin introducing Casino. And it was like a beautiful, succinct intro to say, they're gambling on the States. And anyway, it was the very first thing that we saw. I was like, oh my God, we got to use this. And it's in the film. So yes. I think that it wasn't a challenge to find stuff. It was just time consuming, as it always is.
Boy, it's like, I'm sure, almost like finding those gold nuggets. Jim, when we talk about the love as a Canadian band that you guys have for Canada yourselves, but also, of course, the beloved fans out there, did you ever believe the group would ever achieve so much fame?
Oh my God, no. I think that when Greg and I had been, Greg and I had been pursuing some place in the music industry for a number of years. We'd had a band called the Hi-Fis in Toronto. We'd had a band called Fly to France, unfortunate name, in New York for 3 years. And by the time we came back, we really just wanted to be a bar act. We just wanted to play live. Queen Street scene was so welcoming. It was such a blast to come back and be among all these other people, Hanson, Ned, and all the different musicians. And that was good for us. In fact, that was fine. We had other jobs and we were good. And then it's just one thing after another. And we were very reluctant to get into bed with anybody, managers or record companies. We sent a lot of information around, but our first tape that we made in New York, we sent around to all the record companies, and it was rejected by Warner, who eventually signed us. And I think there were 6 songs on it, and 5 of those songs were on our first record. So things changed dramatically in a couple of years, and it was not about the tastes or the pursuits of record companies. It was about the audience, and we just came at a time when Canadian audiences were looking for something that was a closer reflection of themselves, that was more Canadian, not British, not American. And there was a lot of bands that flourished in that time period, and there was a creation of a Canadian music culture, and we were just lucky to be part of that wave.
Dale mentioned going through the archives at Bell, and it sparked in my memory something from the documentary. Can you talk a little bit, Jim, about MuchMusic's role with the song Try, how it kind of ignited it for all of us in Canada?
When you're going to go over the past, people are going to have different versions of the past. Now, I'm not saying that MuchMusic was incredibly important. We had put out Outskirts. We had put out a single called Outskirts, which was absolutely not played anywhere. And then we put out Try. It didn't do anything. And then there was a mail strike, and then they mailed it out again after the mail strike, and it started to do something. During that process, we made a video because I worked for a commercial company that did our videos on film for nothing. They were so supportive. And a guy named Michael Buckley made a beautiful video, and it was given to MuchMusic. And so then the fable goes that MuchMusic puts it on heavy rotation, even though they don't like the video, but they love the song. John Martin was a real maverick. And then it goes up to the top of the charts. But those things were a little coincidental because the radio stations had a lot to do with it. MuchMusic was powerful, but it was just learning its power. At that time, the AM stations, like I was working at the time, and there was a 6 at 6 on CFTR or something like that, 7 at 7. And we used to stop and bet where Try was going to be on the set. Of course, everybody would bet against me. Oh, it's going to be gone. It's going to be gone. And it was consistently there in the top 5, top 3, top 2. And so that was very important because that's the way a lot of people were hearing it. Not everybody had MuchMusic then, but then MuchMusic made it completely national. So, working together, they changed our lives. But I don't think that it was just MuchMusic.
And we know about playing our Canadian music, giving an opportunity to Canadian bands, because with the flood of US, British, and around the world, everything that was coming in at the time. Guys, I noticed from the documentary, every band has those times, those interesting characters that you have in the band, around the band. But one of the things that I felt, and I'll start with you with this, Jim, but Dale, I'd love you to weigh in on how important this might have been to you to include, obviously as part of the story. Those times what were rough. You have those rough times, but you guys seem to really bask in the feeling, the care for what each other did, the respect. Jim, I picked that up in the documentary. I obviously understand not every day was a rosy day, but there were a lot of those days that you started out doing your runs and, hey guys, I'm going for my run. The others, well, whatever. But in the doc, it felt still so comfortable and full of laughs. Am I correct?
Well, that's a little condensed. I mean, like the documentary. So I would say that those times of despair were a little longer and a little more painful than can be represented in the doc. After the making of Nowhere to Hear, the band was pretty lost. I don't know that we knew what we wanted. Greg was very disaffected and pretty checked out. And that was one time. And then there was years later when Greg actually quit. And that was 6 months of kind of wrapping it up. And then that changed. I mean, there was always at some point the will to continue, but that was not always present. And so there were times where we were all just kind of left hanging, thinking, well, I guess this is over, but it's been great. And yes, it was a little painful to go back over those things for the documentary, because that's not where we're at now. Where we're at now is there's a lot of joy and a lot of gratitude in the band for just being where we are. But going back over those times was a reminder that they were very difficult.
And Dale, for you putting it together and what you observed and making those choices, how did that work for you?
I think that when you have the pleasure to hang out with these guys, you love them more than you think, and because they're funny, they're generous, they're kind, they're super talented. Um, but the thing that you really sort of are exposed to is the laughter. That Jim and Greg make each other laugh, and they've been doing that since high school. So one of our missions was to get that, to get this 50-year relationship of Jim and Greg and how they make each other laugh. And I think the film does it very well. There's lots of spots where they're cracking jokes and making each other laugh, and they're making each other laugh all the way to the very end of the film. So if you're listening to this or watching this podcast, watch it to the very end, because before the credits roll, actually after the credits roll, after the credits roll, there's a few more chuckles.
And Jim, those memories, what did it draw out? Anything that people should watch for that you want to say, guys, go watch for this story, or listen for this story?
I don't know if it's a particular story, but I think that if there's a theme to the doc, it's that with love and patience, you get through a lot. And I think that there is a lot of love in the band, as Greg says a few times, and and you have to be patient with everybody as they go through things. And if you're going to be around people and their personal lives for 40 years, there's going to be a lot of life that happens, and you have to be compassionate and patient. And also, I mean, we're a lot more, we're a lot more therapy literate than we were at the beginning of the band. So we know how to talk, which is good.
Yeah. And you think about relationships from high school on, and thank goodness we know anyway what we should be saying and the way to rightfully say it. Dale, you said Blue Rodeo, Lost Together, is more than just a band documentary. It's a film designed to be as timeless and enduring as the band itself. What do you mean by this?
We wanted to create a guard down, honest film where you got to get to know these guys. And I think because I've known them for so long, the interviews weren't interviews, they were conversations. And so I think it was really about getting on camera who these guys are and what they're really like. So I think any fan or even folks that don't know Blue Rodeo, when they watch this film, they're going to say, "I love these guys, and I want to get to know, or I know them better than I did before the film started."
One of the things I picked up was when you guys were recording the album at the house, and you had all these different people around, the circumstances, how you were going to do it, friends like Sarah McLachlan and them dropping in, but you were working hard to get things recorded. Jim, you guys mentioned family. I heard that multiple times, friends and family that were there along with the fans. I really get touched by that kind of thing. Would you feel that you guys had all that support of the family and friends? And I don't know if that's the immediate family or your extended.
Well, the making of 5 days, it was extended. So it was it was our immediate families, and it was friends. And when we came back to Toronto from the United States, we walked into a burgeoning community of musicians that Handsome Ned had kind of created. Everybody was playing similar type of roots music, and that feeling of being among your own kind and being supported by your own kind was very important. And I think it has extended all the way through our career. So as we also got families, I mean, my family has grown up. We have three children, and two of them are musicians. They've grown up backstage, on buses, at festivals. There's very familiar territory to them. So they know how embracing everybody can be. And they also know, now that they are young musicians, they know how much time you have to spend away from your family and how difficult that is. And that's the big balancing act. The bigger you get, the fewer times you're going to play at home. And so everything's going to be away. So I think it was always important for us to do whatever we could, that events that would involve our families. And that 5 days was a perfect one, because it was as if we were just guided by fate, because we had an open door into our recording studio, which was just his living room, and people would come in and out. and we never ruined a single take, not a single take. And we even had a dog go right through the screen, but not when we were recording. So it was just magic. I mean, there must have been 50, 60 people there, and everybody understood how to move around in a coordinated way. And there's beautiful meals and people swimming, and that was magic.
I'm going to listen to it now with a totally different ear because I want to hear the birds in the background, things that you guys mentioned kind of creeped into the recording that people may not even realize, may not even know. And I think that just makes it, again, as true and pure as this band in Canada, you guys, Blue Rodeo, have always been. Before I let you go, I'm going to ask Dale, give me your one thing you want people to take away from watching this, and about what I hear as a blind person, trueness and so many moments to smile that I picked up on in the sincerity. Yourself.
I think that Blue Rodeo have a ton of great songs, and that's why they've lasted so long. It's like we have 20 songs in this film, plus I Don't Know How You Love Me, the high fives that the guys do on the couch in Jim's farm, just so great. But plus the demo shot. That was funny when we did that, because it was like, hey, you want to do that song? And Jim, Mr. Gung Ho, was like, yeah, sure. We haven't done it in like 50 years, and they did it. It's fantastic. But there's only 20 songs in this doc. If this was like a half an hour longer, we would have way more music. And I think that's what people will take away from this, is that these guys are awesome songwriters. They write music that is timeless, and so that's, I guess that's what I would say. I would like people to take away from this, is that they write timeless songs.
Beautiful. And always picking up the guitar. We had a few minutes before we got started, and Jim picked up the guitar. So a personal concert for us here, just getting a chance to sit and listen in as he passed the time away. Jim, for you, what should people really go look for, listen to, or what do you hope from the film?
No, I'm glad you asked, because there's a bit of an assault on Canadian sovereignty right now, and I think that this film is a small piece of the mosaic of Canadian culture that we've all embraced in the last 40 years, and that give us our definition of our existence here in Canada, how different we are, how much we understand about each other, even though we live in very different places and in the different environments. And I think it's really important as we fight this financial battle to remember that we are characterized by art and culture and communities, and all the things that make up our daily lives are as important, more important than just the finances of the two countries that sit side by side. So I'm very glad that we have this piece to offer at this time.
Thanks for tuning in to Kelly and Company. Follow us on all social media, and don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more.